So sleep architecture is essentially the skyline of our sleep. So if you think about New York City has a distinct skyline, Vancouver, BC, which is where I'm from, has a distinct skyline. So our sleep has a distinct skyline as well. And so this refers to the different stages of sleep that we go through. If you look at a hypnogram, which you'll see if a patient has a sleep study, it'll give you the sleep stages and it will look like that skyline. So I'm going to talk about what it looks like in adults because I work with adults in my practice. And so that's kind of my bread and butter. So essentially, we've got two main categories of sleep stages. These are non-REM sleep and REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep. And then within non-REM sleep, we've got three stages, stages 1, 2, and 3, which go from progressively lighter and then to the deepest stage, which is stage 3, deep slow wave sleep. So these happen in certain proportions. Stage 1 sleep comprises about 5% of our total sleep architecture as adults. Stage 2 sleep is about 50% of sleep architecture. Stage 3 is about 20%, and then stage REM is about 25%. So what's really interesting about these sleep stages is that they occur in about 90 to 120-minute cycles, where we go through all of these stages, and we have about 4 to 5 sleep cycles per night, and the cycles alternate between the non-REM and REM stages. But the other thing that's important to know is that we get different sleep stages in different proportions across the night. So what I mean by that is in the first half of the night, we tend to get more of that deep stage 3 slow wave sleep. And in the second half of the night, we get more REM sleep. So even just explaining that to patients is really important because it helps them understand why it's important to have a consistent sleep schedule. Because if you're going to bed at different times and waking up at different times, you're kind of cutting off that sleep architecture. So if you're going to bed too late, you might be missing out on that deep restorative sleep that we get in the first half of the night. Or if you're waking up too early compared to your chronotype, then you might be cutting off some of that REM sleep that we get in the second half of the night.
Is there like a specific time that you would recommend people go to sleep and wake up in general?
Yeah, it's such a great question. This question came up yesterday when I was doing a faculty sort of Q&A with a program that I teach with. So it depends. It really depends on the person's individual chronotype. Some of us are more night owls, so you might have more of a delayed chronotype where maybe your natural sleep schedule is from like 11 p.m. to 7 or 8 a.m. Whereas other people are more morning larks, so they might have an earlier schedule. They prefer to go to sleep at 9 p.m. and maybe they get up at 5 or 6 a.m. And then there's some people who are in that sort of like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. sort of range. So the short answer is it really depends on the person. So I encourage people to tune into yourself and identify what your individual chronotype is. And how you can figure that out is just ask yourself, okay, what would my sleep schedule be if I didn't have other social obligations, if I didn't have to go to work? Or, if you're working with patients, if you didn't have to go to work, if you didn't have to go to school, you didn't have kids waking you up at 5 o'clock in the morning, what would your natural sleep schedule look like? Like, for example, if you're on vacation. And then can you customize your lifestyle according to that? And I know that's like kind of a pipe dream for a lot of people don't have that privilege to be able to do that. But just even understanding that is really important. And there are ways to kind of shift your schedule a little bit, which we can talk about when we talk about melatonin. But yeah, so short answer again is like there's no one prescriptive sleep schedule that's good for everybody. It really depends on your personal chronotype.
Getting back to the stages of sleep, another question I have after you've talked about that is that can you ever get to deep sleep without going through other stages? Like it always has to happen that way.
Yeah, so generally you're going to go from a transitional stage. So those stages 1 and 2 are considered stage 1 is sort of our transitional stage from being awake to going into then those deeper stages of sleep. So like if you're going straight into slow wave sleep, then that could be a sign that there's something wrong, right? That could be a sign that you're really sleep deprived or maybe you're sick.